Welcome to my site. This is a potentially brief introduction to myself, just so you can get a sense of my frequency and the way that I think about things, what my approach is. In doing readings, I draw upon 12 years of thinking about human design. I jumped in pretty intensely about 12 years ago. I was really invested in understanding it and discovering deeper layers of the information, all while attempting to ground it in my own experience, largely through getting in touch with my own inner authority and trying to understand what that mechanic is, how it functions in my day-to-day. And of course, trying to understand what strategy means. For context, I'm a 4-1 self-projected projector. Don't have any conscious definition, so I just have an unconscious connection from the G center to the throat. And I'll get into those sorts of things in other videos. I mean, a deeper analysis of what I experience with that design. But I've gone through kind of a long cycle of stepping away from, almost 7 years cycle of stepping away from human design, trying not to talk about it to everyone in my immediate life, learning to live with it sort of under the surface and sort of deprioritizing it in my mental experience. That is, like, not trying to see everything just through that filter. So it's always been there, sort of enriched, or since 12 years it's been there. And it enriches and informs the way that I perceive things, but of course all of this is happening within the context of my life of seeking meaning and seeking purpose and a way to contribute to other people, especially an understanding of ourselves and helping people to understand themselves in a way that is healthier, and also to understand other people in a way which is healthier. And human design, I think, is a great tool for that, potentially. I think it can also play a sort of repressive, restrictive role, depending on the way in which we are imagining our relationship to our own design. Something else I'd also like to get into at some point. But with a sort of gentleness and some humor, and taking a more contemplative, creative approach to understanding what a human design body graph is pointing to, what it's a map of, as opposed to it being something that we have to identify with. Taking this more free-flowing, though grounded approach, I think human design can contribute immensely to our own health, our psychological well-being, and it can inform our relationships, and in general create more space and allow us to step into, well, to participate more fully in our lives, paradoxically, by becoming less rigidly identified with things. We have more space within our experience to appreciate and to allow things to arise, as opposed to identifying with the things that arise. So, from my perspective, human design has two fundamental polarities that are pointed towards in a human design body graph. That is, what is defined and what is undefined. And within that is all the subtlety, extreme depth of subtlety, from the big layer of type all the way down to the minutiae of line, color, tone, base, etc. All of this real fine-tuned stuff. That all is on your defined side, and we often have an inclination, at least I have experienced this and experience it with other people, an inclination to identify with those things and try to align ourselves to what seems to be consistent, assuming that that's going to make our lives better or deliver what it is that we think we want. So that's sort of a rigid approach to the defined side. Likewise, for the undefined side, that's something that we want to reject and to not identify with. Again, sort of, that's a rigid way of thinking about or approaching those things. The beneficial polarity, the benefit of both polarities of what's present in your chart, what is defined and what is undefined, is that both of them approached from the perspective of awareness, allow for this broader immersion in our own experience, in the mystery of our own being, and participation with the nuanced every day, every moment of every day. So what I try to do is to help us to cultivate a relationship to what is defined through awareness, so that we can appreciate the opportunities, the benefits, the gifts that lie in those, as well as the challenges. Likewise, with the openness, they have gifts and challenges. And so for both sides, what we want to be doing is being able to recognize what's consistent and what's inconsistent in our experience, develop a kind of fluidity in our awareness and our relationship to those aspects of our experience with which we are conditioned, or which we are conditioned to be highly identified with. This is me, or this is not me. Instead, being able to cultivate the awareness of this is arising, this is arising. This is arising, it's something which is inconsistent. It means that I'm subject to some sort of influx of energy that's happening in the individuals around me, or in the sort of cosmic weather, if you like. Likewise, I can have something and say, this is me, or this is not me, but it's something which is consistently arising, right? It could be something I'm easily identified with. It could be something that I never am aware of, but nevertheless is consistent. We have an awareness in a human design body graph of both conscious and unconscious aspects. So those things which are consistent, conscious or unconscious, likewise, we want to be able to get to a place where we're recognizing those things, seeing the way in which they function healthily or not, and in finding a balance and cultivating space through contemplation and awareness of both of these, let me say, the polarities of your body graph, of what that's pointing to in your own experience. Then you can, it's a lofty word, but you can sort of transcend, not to escape the experience of being, but to shift your relationship to the experience of being in a profound way, really profound in that you are more deeply involved and more deeply attuned to your own particularity, your individuality, what's unique about yourself, what you contribute and what you receive from your experience and your environment. That depth and immediacy and immersion in the uniqueness is the place where there's a capacity for awareness, right? You're not resisting it, so you're neither attaching nor resisting, and so you're not adding friction within your own experience. You're allowing that which you are, which is this highly specific aspect of being, to participate as it necessarily does in the unfolding of your life. So that's a lot, but that's my main aim, is just to take this orientation of awareness relative to your chart as a whole, so that we can cultivate this acceptance, essentially, of what is consistent and what is inconsistent, and thereby really reorienting your perspective, your relationship to the unfolding experience itself. If this is something that you're attracted to, if you're interested in utilizing your human design body graph in this way, then you can contact me either for a reading directly and just schedule one, or if you like, you can email me and we will set up a brief time to speak, potentially, so we can get a better sense of whether or not it's something that we want to move forward with. I'll also be uploading videos to my YouTube channel, in which I'll be attempting to make the way that I read a chart accessible. I think that reading a human design body graph can be really enlightening and fun, and should be something which is sort of creative. And in order to do that, we need to cultivate a really dynamic understanding of the building blocks, a kind of fluid, energetic mapping of the human design body graph, as opposed to working from a top-down, superficial level in which you have all of this information, all of these numbers and different names associated with things, trying to understand sort of a bottom-up approach in terms of just thinking about types of energy, the way that they're moving through different centers, and what those narratives begin to tell us. So I hope that you'll get something from all of this, whether it's just in learning about the way in which I present and think about human design, and perhaps some peripheral things, or if you feel drawn to giving a reading, I look forward to that. Thank you.